So I'm currently sitting outside and doing a little bit of a reflection. I have no makeup on. This isn't scripted. I can hear my car from here. My husband's driving and it's loud. I tried to write my thoughts on paper, but unfortunately I don't know, it was weird. So upon doing a lot of self-reflection, I've realized there's something that I've struggled with back and forth, and that's my faith. That's my religion. I was born into a mostly Roman Catholic family. We went through all the traditional hoopla, but it never resonated with me, and it bothered me because I'm such an observer, so I see a lot of my family members and stuff, and they're so faithful, and I somewhat admire that, and sometimes I think I'm almost jealous of that because I don't see things the way that they see it. How they can go and latch on to an imaginary being and have such hope that everything's going to be okay. It's almost like it's their tool of therapy, if you will. It's their tool to go through life without the worries and the anxieties, and something just never settled right with me. I think a lot of that has to do with my childhood trauma at an early age, bullying, and maybe just my brain being wired differently. I could sit there and say it's odd because as I was writing, I was thinking, well, I believe in this fantasy world. That was my safe haven. It's where I went to when things got too hard for me. I went into this bizarre fantasy world in my mind where I was okay and I was strong and capable, and I could believe in things like magical unicorns and fairies, and because there was some good feeling about that. There was some hope, there was some excitement because of what I've been told, through movies and whatnot. But that was my safe place. I was safe there. So what makes that any different than believing in a God? Well, interesting is I was always told that was the fantasy world. It wasn't real. Fairies, goblins, unicorns, everything magical and innocent wasn't real. But God was, yet I could not see him. I think I had a really hard time, not so much with authority, but the authority of the Bible. Because as somebody who went through something at such a young age, my blinders were off, and because that innocence was ripped from me, I think it's almost like I could compare it to the veil's lifted, and I could see the evil. And how easy would it be for me to believe that it's because of the devil? But my brain just didn't process it that way. I just saw mean people. I just saw really mean and negative, nasty, hurtful people. And oddly enough, it came from those same people that I went to church with every Sunday. The same very people that I sat with in my Sunday school. Sunday school was a whole different story. I didn't want to go to school on Sunday. I wanted to continue to play, and really, I was so stuck in this fantasy world for so long, in this make-believe world for so long, because that's where I felt like I could cope and I could be safe. That was my hope, my safe haven. And even though in the back of my mind I knew it wasn't real, it was just like well, what if, So I think that's where a problem had started. I think as I got older, I did not understand the concept behind a lot of things. Like, for instance, my first communion was terrible. I think I just went through the motions because it was expected, and that is another issue, is the expectations. It was just expected, but my brain was like, yeah, but I don't really believe this is true, and I was afraid to ask questions because I was kind of laughed at or pushed away, or the explanations didn't make sense. I think because of my trauma, I don't remember a lot, But unfortunately, the things I do remember are kind of scary. So, like my first communion, because it was a huge deal in my family, my whole family came down and visited from all over, and my dog got hit by a car that day and died. So, but I had something good out of it, like the pound puppy blanket my grandfather brought me. I still have it. So again, I think it was like this tumble effect, and I started questioning God. It was like, really? My sister had a great first communion. Nothing bad happened, and she looked beautiful. And I mean, but it made me fearful when I was wearing this dress that, I mean, it looked like we didn't have a lot of money, but it looked like I was getting married. I mean, it was very bizarre to me. And I look back at the pictures and I looked absolutely miserable. Um, so yeah, so my dog got hit that day. And again, it was like that veil was lifted. Really, you know? But again, it was still expected of me. And I remember making excuses to not go to church on Sundays. One I think sticks in my mind the most is daylight savings time. I was hoping my mom wouldn't wake up in time. She did. We slowly started to move away from the church when my parents got divorced, and that was something else that bothered me. I saw my mother go from a happy-go-lucky person, and then just dealing with divorce in itself, but where faith was very crucial to her, it was a huge part of her life. I watched her kind of lose herself. She could no longer take communion. She could no longer get married in a Catholic church. That really bothered me. I was like, ugh, really? So that bothered me. Constantly singing and praising Mary bothered me. I do not remember my Hail Marys. I totally faked it during my grandmother's death. I'm so sorry. And that's another thing. I have seen way too much death. Anyways, I don't think I've been desensitized. I've just, come back, son. You were nice and sunny. I think I've just seen so much of it. That's trauma in itself. The images of Christ on a cross really freaked me out. It was just creepy. It was really creepy. I learned Latin because of my church, okay? I took 4 years of Latin. That was pretty cool. But I also wanted to be a doctor, so that didn't work out well for me. But it did help. It did help in the long run. It did. Like, I know that afebrile means without a fever. A means without. So, I learned that. So, yeah, like, some of the imagery was really scary. Some of the traditions, like the burning of incense, anointing oil, Ash Wednesday used to freak me out. When I really look back and I reflect, putting ashes on my forehead in the way of a cross just really freaked me out. I felt like I was being marked by the devil. Like, it really freaked me out. And maybe because I did have such an imaginative mind, I don't know. I wasn't allowed. I mean, it's not like I watched scary movies when I was growing up. So, although my sister in Pet Sematary, but I was 15. I mean, yeah, I'd much rather just go play in the fields and just have fun. I didn't want to go to church. I didn't like it. I didn't feel comfortable there. Also, I'm an extremely sensitive person, so I pick up on people's vibes, We also didn't have a lot of money, so it was really hard for us to constantly dress up. And, we had our daily Sunday dresses. And I loved Easter. Easter was my favorite. It really, really was. And I don't think it was so much the traditions as far as the church goes. It was more about my family being together. But it was fun to dress up and be girly, because I wasn't that girly. But funny enough, you want to know how I found out that I was hypoglycemic? Easter. Easter morning, we were running late. My mother was trying to do my hair. I kept telling her, and I mean, I remember it so vividly. I was like, I'm hungry. I'm hungry. I really need to eat. Like, I'm really hungry. And of course, my mom's like, you're fine. I've done it to my kids a million times. And I was like, no, Mom, I'm really hungry. I was like, I don't feel good. And she's like, you're fine, and it was probably because I never wanted to go to church. Sure enough, I hit the floor. I passed out, and then I woke up puking everywhere. We still went to church. So you see my point here. I think I felt like I was cursed. Um, I had a really hard time connecting. Like, I just, a lot of things didn't make sense to me. And so there's a multiple things as to why I am not a religious person. Am I a spiritual person? I guess you could say that. Like, I love being in nature. I love connecting with nature. I'm really into meditation because a lot of that is self-healing. It's self-help for me. Um, and it gives me time to think without all the noise. And nobody's telling me what to feel. Nobody's telling me what to think. I can take the time to self-reflect and to really own in on my feelings. What's going on. And sometimes I am jealous of my mom and my sister and stuff because they're such faithful people. My aunt, oh my God love her. She is so beautiful, such an amazing soul. And she's extremely, extremely faithful and into the Catholic Church, and I admire that. I think it's made her who she is. As far as being a good, but she's just a good-natured, awesome person, and with a good heart. I think there was a time and a place for religion back in the day, but not without horrible cost. I just don't think now is the time and the place. I'm not saying that we can't have faith. My dog's digging, sorry. But maybe in the right things, I don't know. I just don't think the Bible that I'm used to, stop it, belongs in our world anymore. I think a lot of it, now that I'm able to research more and really study certain things, it really makes me question. It's like, is there really a place for this anymore? It doesn't mean that godless people are going to become holy terrors. No. It's all based on the individual, where you grew up. I mean, there's so many psychological factors and, environmental factors and stuff, but I think we can be good people without pushing religion. I'm not saying you can't believe as you believe. By all means, I'm not one to tell you what to do and what to think, but I'm just not sure it has a place anymore. It definitely does not have a place in my life. I think I struggled with religion because it was expected of me. Even when I was researching witchcraft, I was just really desperate. I had gotten out of an abusive relationship, and I think my mind just snapped into some delusional world again. My mom went crazy, and it wasn't like I was a practicing witch, because I don't believe that these things work. But it would just, again, it was like, well, but you believe prayer works, but you believe this works, you believe this works. It's like because of a book or several books told you different, And then I started becoming obsessed with ancient Egypt, and I was researching ancient Egypt, and I'm like, I was obsessed with ancient Rome and the mythology there, and it was like, what makes them any different? Who are you to say that somebody's belief is not the real belief, or you're not a real Christian? I mean, there's fighting amongst Christians. No book that comes from a higher being should be open to that much interpretation. I also have come to understand there are sacramental laws, there are the godly laws, I guess, and then I think like the region or whatever. I'm probably not explaining that right, but I did do some research on that, which was interesting. It was really interesting. The Bible is not meant for children. It is a horrible book. It is a horrible book. And the more I've researched just history, like I've been really into the Victorian ages, which is bizarre because it's been so romanticized. I was like, come on, there's no way people looked that good. And I am mortified, and I'm like, how did we even survive? The fact that we're still here, people, we need to be applauded for, because good Lord, and we can thank science for that. I mean, everything was made with arsenic and freaking asbestos and yikes, wallpaper with arsenic, people. I mean, to get that green, gotta get that green, the emerald green. I just found that fascinating. Yeah, I don't, as I self-reflect, I don't think there's a place for religion in my life. I don't want to hear it. Don't push it on me. If you wish to choose to believe that way, by all means, but don't push it on other people. I know that your book and your religion tells you to. I've always felt like that's a private thing. If you're going to pray, you pray in private, and I do believe it even says that in the New Testament. don't push it on people. It has no place. No place in my life right now. So I'm just going to continue being me and listen to the awful sirens.